Hey you guys, it's me Vocal Thunder again, here to bring you another video tutorial, this time covering the Terran, and I usually play random, so you'll see me playing a lot of different races, but this time I'm going to be doing the Terran. I'm up against another Zerg player, and this Zerg player goes for a different build than the previous replay. He goes for, I believe, speedlings instead of the 6 pool, so it'll be a little bit different. He probably did this because on this map there's no certainty of where your opponent's gonna spawn. There are 4 spawn locations on the map, and the map is pretty big, so it's really hard to do any sort of really fast rush. We're gonna get this started here. Basically, with the Terran, I find against a Zerg player, and I knew that he was a Zerg player because of the loading screen. I could tell that he was a Zerg player, and I was playing random. But as the Zerg, as the Terran, I actually find that Thors are the best bet against the Zerg player, because for air, if the Zerg decides to rush Mutas, the Thor can take it out pretty easily because of the dedicated anti-air missiles that do splash damage. But for anything else that the Zerg player throws at me, like be it Hydras or Zerglings, you can actually take them out really fast with the Thors. I actually saw this build order from a Korean player on one of the replays for on Husky Starcraft's YouTube channel, and it was really interesting because he had also spawned in this exact location, and I just remembered the play so vividly that I decided to try it out myself. But what I do here is I go for I think it was a 10 depot, and then a 12 barracks, and I send out my scout to the far corner here because I wanted to be sure that he's not spawning on the opposite side of the map, because if I find that his scouting, if he sends a scout in while I'm scouting towards the far side, then I know he's not coming from the far side. But if I manage to catch his scout on the way in, then I'll know from which side he's coming in. So that's why I decided to scout the far end. The barracks is going up. I go for a refinery very shortly after the barracks is up. Still 12, so far it's 10 depot, 12 barracks, 12 refinery, and then I put my SCVs on the refinery and I go for my orbital command as soon as the barracks is done. So his scout's gonna come in here. He's not gonna be able to get much. I just decided to drop the tech lab because what the Korean player I saw do was he went for some Marauders, and Marauders are a very good counter towards Zerg for the early game because the Roaches are weak against the Marauders simply because of the attack type, and also Zerglings, they die pretty easily to Marauders. But my orbital command finishes up here. I put down another refinery, try and get my gas pumping because I know I'm gonna need a lot of gas. And then I, pump a few more SCVs until I need to build another supply depot here. And I have a habit of supply locking myself. I don't see it coming very often. I'm just too busy trying to get my SCVs out. But it is a good habit to be constantly building a supply depot every now and then. So I start pumping out a few Marauders here. I build a bunker, and that bunker is going to be able to hold this front door pretty well, especially against any kind of speedling attack. As you can see, he's already going for the speedlings. He decides to go for a Baneling's nest as well, because Terran players often like to wall in, and Banelings would have been great. But you'll notice what I actually did here. I have the add-on, and I have the depot wall, and this is exactly what the Korean player did as well. The depot wall is the secondary defense, and the add-on is the first line, so it's really good. It helps you, defend against any kind of rush early on. But what I see with my my SCV here, who was at the control tower, he decided not to take it. But I noticed that he was bringing some Zerglings to my base, and then when I noticed that there wasn't any coming to the front of my base, I realized that he was going after these rocks. So what I decided to do, and you'll see me do it in a moment here, but I decided to build some supply depots along these rocks here instead. And so you see I'm already going for my armory. I basically go from barracks to factory, and then right off the factory I go for the armory right away. And I decided to build a second barracks here to produce some marines, just in case I find some like a lot of Zerglings, too many for my Thor to handle. But as soon as the armory is up, I basically go for the Thor. And it's right around. Oh yeah, I noticed that he's going for the rocks first, and then I build a few supply depots before I go for the Thor. But basically, this is the build that you kind of want to have. You want to have your supply depot. You want to have your factory up as soon as you can. You want to have a armory up, and you want a starport because you want to be able to move your Thor around. So I build a starport and a reactor, so that way I can drop my Thors around his base. He's got his speedlings upgrades already, and he's working on these rocks, and I can see it from my supply depot here. I bring my marauders here and try and stop him from breaking in the front here. So I do a quick scan and find that his Zerglings are working away on those rocks, and my marauder takes a few shots, so he decides to back off. I bring some my marines here in the back and kind of reinforce these rocks with some supply depots. And it's really fortunate that I'm a Terran player and I'm allowed to do that. So he comes in with his Banelings, and what's so great about this add-on build is that you can actually, you saw that I actually defended against those Banelings because they had to go through the add-on first before they actually got to my supply depot, so I repair it up, and my marines and my 2 marauders are able to defend that Baneling bust. And the Baneling bust is pretty common against Terran players, so when you're against a Zerg, you want to be able to defend against that. This build is lucky enough for me, was enough to stop that Baneling bust, and I can rebuild that tech add-on really easily. But as you can see, I'm producing my first Thor here. I go for one medevac, and I decide to go for another one too, as you'll see. Oh, actually, my Thor is already out. I'm just waiting for a second one, because when you have that second Thor, it just makes it so much more effective. This push is just amazing from a Terran player, because it's a good defensive strategy at the beginning, and then once you go on the offense, there's really little that the Zerg player can do.